Good Sunday evening to you, students. If this is the week 4 overview, I have a few comments going into this 4th week. Can you believe we're going into 4 weeks already? I hope you're taking some time to pause and first to look back and think about how far you've come. It's a lot of content in this class, and you've grown a lot. I'm starting to see a lot of growth in the discussion board and also in the nature of your work. It's starting to look much more scholarly and professional in the level of research. Good job on that. I also want to thank you for making the effort to reach out and interact in real time with each other and with me. This class is heavily about process learning, and that's a challenging thing to do in an asynchronous learning environment, especially an online one. And one of the wonderful blessings of having online learning is that we're able to access programs and actually to do them. I wanted to do a PhD for years before I actually did mine, and it's only because I was able to do it in an online learning format that I actually applied and did mine. But there's some challenges when it comes to learning. I was actually able to thrive in my program because I had an online program and an in-person local cohort. I completed my program at the same time as my superintendent and my counterpart. There were 3 of us, a comprehensive high school principal, an alternative high school principal, that was me, and my superintendent. We were friends. We sat around and we did our homework and our jammies almost every night of the week, and then we got up and went to work the next day. That's what we did. That being said, it helps when you reach out and you talk and respond in real time. And if you're struggling in the class and you feel maybe that it would help, or if you need some assistance pairing up with people, please let me know. I'm happy to facilitate that. Some feedback on the last week. On a lot of your assignments, I've been making comments such as, okay for now. What that means is that I'm not wanting to mark down too much on your assignments because I don't want to discourage you. You're doing really well and there's a lot to learn. I don't want you to be held back by things that are going to take time to develop. So if I've given you full credit or close to full credit, I just want to give you the caveat that it doesn't mean that it's done and finished. It's not like that in a process. It means it's okay for now. And I want you to continue to think on it and let it grow and develop as you continue to work. As you look at research for the next couple of assignments, you're going to grow in your ability to recognize the elements of research. And you're going to look back and say, oh yeah, that's what that meant, because time makes a difference. So when I said, okay, for now, what it means is that you should expect to go back and continue to update, modify, and change. And please don't get upset if you were right and something is different now, or if you were wrong and something is different now. It continues to grow and to build. It's complex. Okay, and we learn from each other. This week, we're going to be working on understanding and skills that build on previous learning. And some of us are not quite where we're expected to be at this point in the course, and it's okay. But what I want to say is that if we are not focusing on certain parts being close to ready, other parts may be a struggle. First, I want to talk about the scope of our topic. And I've let you learn and think and develop together and have some productive struggle, because part of doing research is learning to think and apply and to try. However, I've also made recommendations, particularly about narrowing topic, because I've taught this class often, and I know from my own experience as a researcher that there is a plethora of research available, and that if you do not start narrow within the scope of what a teacher would really want to do in their job, that it will be difficult later. And it's also difficult to operate within that space because it's a difficult space to be in. It's new. So remember when we started in the library, when we started to learn our search strategies, there were several. And I strongly encourage you to make use of the library and the librarians to make sure that you are doing an exhaustive search of your topic. Because we don't want to proceed with research and mistakenly research something incompletely or research something that has already been done. Now, how can you tell if your topic is too broad or too narrow? Well, that's a little bit like building a plane while you're flying it. You can have a sense that your topic is about right if you are getting about a reasonable number of articles to review that are recent within 5-ish years and from peer-reviewed primary sources. And if there's going to be a reasonable number for you to read and review and include in your annotated bibliography. Now, it's broken into two parts, Part A and Part B. Part A, you're going to have about 8 to read and review. And Part B, you're going to do 8 more. And then by the time your capstone is done, you'll have more, about 20-ish, maybe. You might have a few more. You should not have more than one that is a book, if that. And you probably will not come across a seminal source in the field. Perhaps, maybe you will. Only then, but you probably won't. It's not common. Okay. You're really going for a topic that has about 20-ish good, solid, recent, peer-reviewed primary sources, journal articles on topic that speak to your area and not more. And if you have much fewer than that, then your topic is too narrow. And if you have many, many more, it's too broad. And no, you don't get to pick the ones you want because that's bias, right? We want to make sure that we are being fair and looking at the field with the right lens. And we can't let our biases encourage us to pick what we want, right? Because it's not strong research. That's not robust. So you want to be certain you've done a robust search by using all of your strategies, proximity search, key term search, key phrase search, working with a librarian, thinking about synonyms, other approaches. As you read the articles, you might hear it approached or described a different way and realize, oh, well, that's what I'm talking about. I never thought of it that way. Well, you need to be doing that and becoming the expert in it for us in our class. Because, and while you're only exploring, not saving the world, while you're only exploring, you do need to be certain that you know and are confident that you know what is recent and relevant on the topic before you're doing an additional study. Because otherwise, it isn't strong and robust. So, I'm not 100% sure we're all there yet on our topics, and this is where we're going to struggle. So if you're struggling, it is time to get in touch with me, and it's okay if you are, but let's not struggle more by not fixing it. And we're here to help, and this is part of the process. If certain things are not fixed going forward, it continues to be difficult. I've had a lot of students who don't believe me, who then go forward and then decide they're going to change their topic midstream, and you can't do that. It's also just a reminder, we're doing qualitative research. Qualitative, how much or how many, how does, not statistical methods, not quantitative. We're not looking at how much or how many. We don't have to do that. It doesn't match our purpose in education or the purpose of the capstone. You can do that later in your dissertation. Okay. If you get an article that does address quantitative methods or mixed methods, you can use it in the annotated bibliography. But for our research purposes, we're only doing qualitative. Okay. Okay. So one more thing I wanted to say about assumptions and biases. Some of you maybe identified one and maybe made a guess or a mention of something you're going to do. For the purposes of chapter 1, you're going to need to be able to name probably more than one assumption or bias that you have. I know I have many. but you'll become more familiar with what they are and what they look like and yourself as a researcher as time goes on. And then you're going to need to specifically describe in detail what steps you will take, what actions you will take, and put them in chapter 1. We'll get there. If you didn't so far, it's okay. Don't panic. This week, you're going to be reading each other's chapter 1 and providing them with that feedback. So if I said okay for now, that's what I meant. Okay for now, good start, but do expect that you'll add to it and change. In this class, really, nothing's ever, you're done, you turned it in, you've met it, you moved on. I know we all want A++++. We're teachers and high achievers, but research isn't like that. So expect to revise. Okay. All right. So moving into week 4. We're working on the annotated bibliography. These are the sort of things I like to do for fun. I'm doing one right now myself. One learning outcome, exercise professional reflection throughout the research process. Let's stop there and think about how far we've grown. Perhaps how much harder this is than other classes, or how much of a head start we have because we have experience having done this for other classes in other programs. Also, let's think about how we can impact our schools for change or for school improvement. When you have completed your capstone and you have your degree, then you will be able to impact your school and beyond. For the capstone, you're simply completing assignments and exploring research. Okay? That will be later, and I'll help you. We'll do it together. But right now, we're just doing the capstone. Keep that in mind. Okay? There's a lot of reading coming besides the textbook, and I know you're doing it and keeping up with it and taking notes. Remember, the information in the textbook is going to inform your work with your reading of the journal articles. You will be identifying different aspects of research as you read them. And to understand what those elements are, you'll be finding them in the reading. So if you have been reading your text and the assigned readings, but perhaps not memorizing like we used to, you can look it up. You may want to go through and refer to notes or any annotations you've made, or make an organizer of different elements that you feel you may need. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. About your research problems, you've put those into your chapter 1 and you're turning those in tonight, or already have. You're going to get feedback on those from your peers. And by looking at each other's and providing feedback, you are also learning how to better recognize and read research problems that are qualitative in nature. So that's coming. Planning and designing the process of qualitative research. Coming up, you're going to be identifying them in the articles you read. You'll be reading 8 for assignment 3A. And then planning and writing a research puzzle while you're working on chapter 1 already. And soon you'll be getting feedback from your peers and you will be revising. Okay. For the Christian message this week, if you choose to participate, week 4's devotion address what is the purpose of your life? And is there a difference between your purpose for your life and God's purpose for your life? And I was talking to one of you this week, I think maybe it was Melissa, but I was laughing because I was recalling when I went into teaching, people often ask me this question. The honest truth, I went into teaching for the money. It's a joke, and I'm not being a smarty pants about it, but I mean, I was a social worker before I was a teacher. And I did, in fact, in a way, go into teaching for the money, because in public education, teachers in California make much more than teachers and than social workers. As a social worker, I was going home to my mom's house so I could eat meat. And I ate meat once a week because I went home to visit my mom. And so I was joking about that, but remembering fondly also how lucky it was that I had a parent who enjoyed feeding me every week when I was in my early career. That was my purpose, I think, for becoming a teacher. I was smiling again because I realized recently, when I was notified that my biological father had passed away, I was done so by a former student, which is really funny. And I had just had my head injury and gotten home from the doctor, changed into my jammies. I think they had Christmas print on them, and got a knock on the door, and there were two sheriffs, and one of them was a former student informing me. And, and it's not funny, but it was kind of a joyful thing to say, hi, Mrs. Strella. Hi, Jose. Get this terrible news. And you're actually kind of happy to see somebody who's so grown up and in their uniform and professionally trying not to look uncomfortable, because it was uncomfortable and sad, but truly a joy too. Have it, at least have it done by a former student. Anyway, I don't know if that was God's purpose for my life to use me as a teacher that way, but I think there's a lot of surprising things about the vocation of teaching. And I don't know. I don't know if we are taught more by our students than we teach them. I hope I've taught them some science somewhere along the line. But I would ask you to join me in praying about that. I'm not sure I'm going to go back into public K-12 teaching well, I won't be this next fall, but I don't know when. I can still influence it, be part of it, definitely be interacting with it in my community. But it's an interesting thing to stop and to reflect on that, and think about God's purpose for your life. But we can believe that there is a purpose for us. And I would ask you to consider that in your prayers. For our readings and videos this week, you'll be looking at journal articles and working on your annotated bibliography. There's a lesson and a video for you to watch. It's really well done. And hooray, there's no assignment due this week. As if that meant there's less work. I know, but with no assignments due this week, please do look over the assignment 3A. I'm going to speak about it in a little bit. Carefully consider your topic choice, narrow it by reading about it, and use the discussion board as a means to draw feedback from your instructors or peers. Now, let's talk about the discussion board first, and then we'll talk about, and then we'll talk about the assignment. Okay. So watch the video, please, about literature reviews and overview for graduate students. This has been done with you in mind by the Concordia Schroeder Library. And yesterday I shared a video. There are some wonderful guides in the library that were done by the library staff or the librarians in Concordia's library. And if you've not already met them, please go by, make an appointment to meet them, thank them for their hard work. They're there for you. And they've done a lot of great stuff, including research guides, which I put in the announcement, and I hope you'll go and check out. I read a couple of them this last week. They've done a great job. Especially, I really like the stress relief one. But this one is about literature reviews. Please review it. You have been pulling literature about your topic. You're going to now be synthesizing it. And this is a skill that takes practice. It involves drawing on key concepts from the articles you're reading and comparing and contrasting. Now, I grew up with two parents who were librarians, and I still have one. I was lucky enough to have three parents. I've lost two, and I still have one. I didn't always see it that way growing up, but I still have one parent left. My stepfather, research librarian, gets really irritated with me in conversation because I will go between topics while going forward at the same time, because I'm a qualitative researcher. That's what we do. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like to think that way, but it's okay. We're all different. Now, it involves managing different things and comparing and contrasting them, and you're going to experience that because the next assignment involves reviewing 8 articles. And when you're comparing and contrasting 8 different things, well, it's kind of like juggling a lot of objects. And if you've ever worked in a school, and if you're going to administration, it's sort of like juggling 8 things that are kind of catching on fire at the same time, right? It's difficult, but possible. Makes you a little crazy, but that's school. It's never boring. Research, comparing and contrasting things at the same time, is multivariable. And that's why qualitative research is a good match for the educational setting. You're going to be synthesizing literature by comparing and contrasting with others and become deeply informed while you find themes. The themes you're going to find, you will analyze and you're going to explore in your research. Okay. Now, I have some suggestions for strategies, just like I did with the manual for citations that I'll make going along. There are different ways to do it and different tools and different approaches. If they work for you, fantastic. If you want to find your own, that's fine too. For the discussion board, you're going to start to consider the themes and how your research questions are answered by experts in the field. Remember, research is only valid and useful if you've done a valid investigation by what has already been done in the field. And if you've not done it well, then whatever work you do going forward is not as good or trustworthy or useful. So right now, we're going to start to make that connection. That's what you're going to post about for your first discussion board. And then for discussion board number 2, now that you've submitted your chapter 1, you're going to share your chapter with your peers. So your job, beyond having submitted it, your job is to post your chapter 1 to the discussion board, upload it to this discussion board as a Word document, and then under 2 of your peers state that you've chosen their paper to review. You're going to pick 2 peers, chapters 1 to review. So you're going to self-assign yourself to them to review their paper, and they are going to self-assign themselves to review yours. And please try to choose a peer that doesn't already have someone. Let's not exclude anyone. Let's include everyone, because we know that's the right thing to do. And it just takes effort. I know sometimes it's done unintentionally, but we just want to make the effort to do so, because that's how we mitigate problems and mitigate things like bias unintentionally. That is done unintentionally. All peer papers should have at least 2 reviews, and this part of the discussion board is due no later than Thursday. Then you're going to provide detailed feedback to your 2 peers on the discussion board. You may choose to comment with positive feedback and constructive criticism in the text box, or upload their paper with your comments embedded. This is part of the discussion board and is due by Sunday. Okay. Now, by providing positive and constructive feedback to your peers, you're not only seeing what it should look like using the rubric, you're seeing samples using the rubric and thinking about your own. And they are doing it for you. It's sometimes very difficult to look at your own work and use the rubric because you could become text blind. So it's just another cognitive approach to learning about the process while learning about the process, right? But there is the rubric. So again, self-assign by Thursday, peer review too, please, by Sunday, positive and constructive feedback. Okay. Now we're going to talk about assignment 3A, which is not due this week. It's due on the 21st. And I have already opened this one up. Now, this is where we take the annotated bibliography and we work on half of it. We break it into chunks and we're only working on the first half. This is 3A. So you're going to begin to gather current credible literature on your topic. Remember, I've advised that you pick an approach, a method, a strategy, something. I know a lot of you really want to make it broad because that makes us achieve a need, but for the purpose of the capstone, we need to finish the capstone. We really want to make sure it's doable. You're going to gather your literature, make sure it looks at all sides of the problem or the issue that you've selected. You're going to be comparing and contrasting the ideas expressed in the works that you use for your paper. And as a starting point, you'll analyze 16 journal articles. That's 16 total for assignment 3, which is A and B. And you'll complete an evaluative annotated bibliography. And for that, you're going to use this template, How to Create an Annotated Bibliography. So let's click on that. Please read this. This is included for your use. It describes an annotated bibliography and the difference between a summary annotation and an evaluative annotation. So here is the process for writing an evaluative annotation. You're going to cite the source using APA style. Describe the main ideas, arguments, themes, theses, or methodology, and identify the intended audience. Explain the author's expertise, point of view, and any bias he or she or they may have. Compared to other sources on the same topic that you have also cited. This is that juggling piece. Explain why each source is useful to your research topic and how it relates to your topic. Evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of each source and identify the observations or conclusions of the author. Okay, so reviewing these steps purposely. Make sure you know how to do an APA style citation, please. I know some of you are frustrated because I'm not telling you exactly what you're doing wrong. Please use the writing studio. Ask each other, please use your manual. Look it up, look at your work, compare, think about format, make sure you're matching it. And then if you really, really need to know and cannot figure it out, even with a buddy, schedule an appointment with me, please. I have a few strategies that will help you. You have to learn it or find a way to learn it so that you can apply it. If I simply tell you, I already know, right? You need to know, and I can help you find a way to know. We'll get you there, don't worry. Make sure you understand methodologies. They are in your reading. You can also research them. If you do not know, you should be able to describe methodologies. Think about qualitative methodologies and look them up. For example, you may find something like records review or archive is another way to say archive review. You'll be able to see strategies and descriptions, make a list, and see if you can, maybe a checklist is an organizer is a good way to approach it. That's what I would do. Intended audience is one you might need to infer. You might look at a guide in the library, but this is one that you learn with practice. You might look at the name of the journal. By the way, identifying an appropriate source or a peer-reviewed journal, there is a guide in the library that will be very helpful for you that. Consider who the audience would be and consider discussing that one with a peer. That is one that has to do with who might they want to sell something to or convince. Who is their membership, or whom are they trying to persuade with their data? Who would use it? That's a good question for you to be contemplating as you read your articles. And then explaining the author's expertise. And why would they be doing that research? It's always something important to consider, especially when you want to consider any bias they may or may not have. Okay, so it's a lot. I know it is. Good luck going to the library. Appreciate your librarian. Help each other. We're in this class as a community. We are here to share our tips and our supports. So don't hesitate to reach out. And again, if you're having trouble connecting with people, reach out to me and I'd be happy to facilitate that. I have a strategy that I use with middle schoolers and graduate students, whereas I keep notes and I have ideas about pairing if you need some assistance with that. So I am around this week. You can email me or text me or call me and let me know any questions or supports or prayer requests you have. Okay, have a great week.